Hey guys, Kevin again. So last night a new show debuted on NBC that I was quite hesitant about. I was hoping it was really good, but because of other shows that are on that network, I was really worried about this show. And it's a show that I don't really know how you guys felt about it, but I figured, you know what? I reviewed a show like this. I figured I'd review the first episode, tell you guys how it is, and that is Maya and Marty, the new sketch comedy show on NBC that really no one knew what it was like. For me, this was about as big as a mystery as Best Time Over Neil Patrick Harris, because that was something I thought was going to go really well. And overall, how was that show? It was pretty mediocre, to say the least. I mean, the best thing about it was a musical number at the end, but other than that, that show just never really found its footing, and I can totally understand why it was canceled, because Neil Patrick Harris was not really pleased with the way it turned out. And because of that, I was like, alright, maybe NBC is trying to right the wrongs of that. Maybe they're trying to show how you can do that well. Maybe they're trying to do that again with Maya Rudolph and Martin Short. I thought that'd be really cool. I like Maya Rudolph. I really like Martin Short. I think he's a very talented guy, and Maya Rudolph can be very funny when she wants to be. And I was like, alright, maybe I'll give this a chance. We'll see how it is. And in the end, guys, this show it really did not work in the way it should. I mean, let me say this. This is not at all a terrible show, but it very much reminds me of the first episode of Best Time Ever, where there are a lot of things here that work, but there's a lot more things that really don't work. And unfortunately, this episode is filled with a lot more things that don't work than the things that do work, because honestly, there aren't a lot of things that do work in the show. Now, there are remnants of a good show in there, definitely, but a lot of this show is very, sadly, just not funny. That was the problem here, is that the show itself is just not that funny. And here's the thing, this is a sketch comedy show. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to talk about each sketch, talk about what happened and everything, talk about what I liked about it, what worked. But for me, it's real simple. A good sketch is a good sketch. A bad sketch is a bad sketch. And that's really how it goes to me. I mean, if I don't laugh, it's not funny. It's really that simple. It's something like this that's trying to be like Saturday Night Live. It's not, funny. It didn't work for me. But let me just get into that. I'm going to go one by one with each one, talking about the first one, which was a skit with Tom Hanks called The Astronaut. And right away, I think the skit very well shows what works in the show and what doesn't. Right off the bat, you can tell what works here. I mean, first of all, the premise here I think is actually really funny. The fact that Tom Hanks is this, basically we see there's this married couple, Maya Rudolph and Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is going off to space for like 4 years, and he's saying goodbye to Maya Rudolph and everything, and the way they say goodbye obviously really awkward. They keep saying in a wild, see you later alligator, in a wild crocodile, that sort of thing. They're kind of trying to parody, astronaut films like Apollo 13 or things like that, because, Tom Hanks did those kind of movies back in the day. But then we find out that he doesn't have to leave for like 2 hours, and he's literally hanging out in his car outside the street, wherever Maya Rudolph happens to be, and this does provide some really fun humor. The problem is, there's never really an explanation or reason why he's exactly doing it. It's always, I'm gonna miss my thing's not till 4 hours, or this happened or something. And it just seemed it just seemed really unnecessary, because for me, this joke ended before it started, really. I think that really is my main thing here, is that eventually Martin Short gets into this, which I understand the show's called Maya and Marty, but I really didn't see Martin Short having a place in here. It seemed like they just had him here because they wanted to. There's something weird going on between him and Tom Hanks' character, and that really is my main thing here, is that those two, I think they worked okay together, but there was no reason for Martin Short being here. When Martin Short got in this, that's when I thought this went on way too long. For me, this should have ended with him going to space. We did not need that whole thing of him in space and everything, and us seeing that there's something weird going on between those two. That, for me, really just didn't work, and it's really sad, especially when you have someone as talented as Tom Hanks. I mean, you have Tom Hanks in your first episode. How can this not go wrong? Tom Hanks is hilarious. I mean, even if he is doing something serious, he's a really funny guy, and he seems like a really chill guy as well. I don't understand how this could have gone so wrong, but the problem is, this joke went on far too long. They really did nothing different with it. Each time was kind of the same thing, and you can only take so much of something for so long, and this is something that the show clearly does not understand yet, that a lot of their jokes do go on way too long. This is the perfect example that already I was kind of like, alright, I kind of like this, but already I was kind of worried, and then basically I thought it was an okay way to start, definitely. It's definitely not the best of the bunch, but it's not the worst either. We'll get to the worst a little bit later, but then we get to their introduction. So then we get to the actual introduction of the show where, Maya Rudolph and Martin Short, they introduce themselves. And when this is one of the highlights of the show, that's when you know there's something wrong here. I mean, look, Saturday Night Live's, monologues, they are either really good or really bad. And some of them are some of the greatest things Saturday Night Live has ever done. Like, guys, look up Zach Galifianakis's 7-minute monologue. It is some of the funniest shit I've ever seen. Honestly, that is hilarious. Him playing the piano and just saying, singing things. I thought that was hilarious. I love when he did that. But let's talk about these two as a whole, because obviously, they had this opening monologue and everything. How is their chemistry in the show overall? Let's talk about that. This is one of the reasons why I'm surprised the show isn't as good as it really is, because you see right off the bat, Maya Rudolph and Martin Short have really good chemistry. These two seem to work really well together. They play off each other really nicely. They're both really funny. I thought definitely they both seemed like they were having a good time doing it, and you can definitely tell that they really do want to do this show. It's not like Best Time Ever where Neil Patrick Harris seemed bored throughout. They actually seem like they're enjoying what they're doing, and that's something I like. You want to have a host that seems welcoming and, wants to welcome you in. And, it's a good way to start. I thought it was a good way to start. I thought they had some good jokes there. Martin Short talking about he doesn't really know what this is and everything. People were asking him what this is. I thought that was pretty funny. I definitely really did enjoy that. And then when they brought in Kenan Thompson, I didn't really fully understand what the point of that was, because I'm thinking, Maya, here's the thing. You're saying, I want to bring in familiar territory. Martin Short was on Saturday Night Live. Why are they acting like he was never on that? I'm not really sure. I think that was really weird. But I did think overall their chemistry was one of the best things here. These two definitely know how to work very well together. I think definitely they were one of the best parts of the show is definitely their chemistry. I think it's something that is going to make or break this show, is their chemistry overall. I think they work well together. Unfortunately, the material they're given after this just isn't really theirs, because the next skit we get actually has nothing to do with them whatsoever, and it's probably one of the most bizarre transitions into anything I've seen in a while. So then we go to our next skit, which was really weird because, of course, Maya Rudolph and Martin Short, they're supposed to be our two, fearless leaders of the show. They're the two people that are hosting it. But then this skit is Kenan Thompson, Martin Short, and Jimmy Fallon. And it's a parody of Little Big Shots. And basically, that was the second one that we're introduced to. Let's talk about it, because I definitely have a lot to say about this one. It's certainly not the worst of the bunch, but I definitely have a lot to say about it. I have several problems with this skit. For one, like I said, it's a very weird transition to go from Maya and Marty and then go to Little Big Shots, because here's the thing. This skit basically is supposed to be a parody of Little Big Shots, that new kids talent show that Steve Harvey hosted, I believe, in like April or something, which I heard was really good. But basically, Kenan Thompson, he's playing Steve Harvey, and he's got the part down really well, but we've seen him play this character so many times, and it really isn't anything we should be surprised about. He's got Steve Harvey down really, really well. Kenan Thompson, definitely, he is fantastic, but this is not Kenan Thompson's show. It's Maya and Marty's show. I don't really know why we're seeing Kenan Thompson here. And then you bring out these two twins. I believe they were called the Drizzle Twins. Basically, you have Jimmy Fallon, you have Martin Short, and you can tell right away that Martin Short is actually pretty terrible as in this skit. He really was not good at all. I really thought that he was overshadowed with Jimmy Fallon, mainly because of how obvious it was that Jimmy Fallon was breaking character and things like that. These two I did really not think it worked very well at all. Basically, the idea is that you have these two Drizzle twins, they're twins and everything, and their talent first looks like that they are basically taking a piss on TV, but then you realize that they're using super soaker guns and they start squirting them at Steve Harvey. This is where the skit completely lost me. I thought this was really dumb. I thought this could have gone somewhere. Kenan Thompson tried, but this really didn't go much of anywhere. Nothing about it was really that funny, and unfortunately, it really did not work in the way I wanted it to. And this was only a sign of the times, because nothing could compare to the next thing that we get, which is one of the most weirdest things I have seen in a very long time, and I don't even know how to talk about it, but I'm going to, because it's just so bizarre, and I have to talk about it because I know you guys want me, because I'm talking about every skit, and I know you guys want me to talk about this one. Now, right off the bat, I have no idea who came up with this idea. I mean, this is one of the weirdest ideas I could think of, and especially for your first episode, damn was this weird. I mean, out of all the ideas, for me, a first episode, you gotta start simple, then you get weird as you go on, and this was just plain old weird. There was nothing funny about this? Basically, the idea is Maya Rudolph is playing Melania Trump, who I don't know if she really is this crazy. I doubt she is this crazy, but basically she is obsessed with diamonds. She's doing an infomercial basically on what is edible diamonds and how much she loves diamonds, that she wants to eat them, and she's telling everyone to eat diamonds and everything. I will admit the thing that I thought worked here is the way they kind of made fun of her voice, things like that, the way she said things. That I thought was pretty funny. I thought Maya Rudolph delivered well there, but this whole idea of just eating diamonds, the entire thing is them eating diamonds, it just got really boring, honestly. I mean, there's nothing funny about picking up a diamond and eating it. It's stupid. At first, I thought they were trying to parody My Strange Addiction, but then I'm like, no, that's Melania Trump. They're trying to parody Melania Trump, which I don't know anything about Melania Trump, so first of all, you failed there, because I know nothing about her, and for me, comedy should come from something relatable, and this isn't really relatable at all. I didn't find anything really that funny about her, and also, I heard that this was completely based on just a picture. Literally, they found a picture, and they said, you know what, Melania Trump eating diamonds, that would be a fun skit to do, and I don't know why the fuck they did this. It's stupid, it's dumb, I don't like it at all. I think it's really ridiculous that they actually did this, and like I said, especially for the first episode, I don't really understand this at all. I don't know why we thought this was a thing. It was really dumb, and for me, it was the one skit that was by far the worst that we had in this episode. Now, like I said, none of the skits I think are really that great. There's only one that's really fantastic, but other than that, there aren't any horrible ones, but this one was just downright weird, downright terrible, and I don't really want to talk about it again because it's really gross, honestly. It's gross. Maya Rudolph did an okay job, but just the idea of eating diamonds completely ruined it for me, and it got very old very fast. So after that god-awful skit, I don't know what the hell that was, we go to something that I think is just as weird, but definitely not as bad as what we saw before. Basically, the idea is that we have this really bad interviewer who's, like, really clearly very, kind of racist and things like that, and he's interviewing Larry David, and this just didn't really work for me. Not just because Martin Short, I don't think, was doing a good job, because honestly, I don't think he did a really good job here, but also because the fact that it seemed more like, let's just talk about what Larry David's done the past couple years and where he's been, rather than an actual skit. And for me, that's what really lost a lot of the humor. I mean, you can tell that clearly there's something weird going on with this guy that's interviewing him. I just didn't care. I didn't really find this funny. I found it to be a lot more of just, oh, we have another guest star here so people will watch our show, and it just seemed like a ratings thing. It really seemed like a ratings thing. For me, it just didn't work. But then we get to what is surprisingly one of the highlights in the show, in what is not a comedy sketch at all. It's something completely different, and it's probably, like I said, one of the highlights of the show, which really does show, I think, how broken this show is right now. So then we go to what I think was probably one of the highlights of the show. Again, this should not be a highlight of the show, but it is, and that was Miley Cyrus's performance. Now look, I don't like Miley Cyrus. I don't like what she's become in the past several years. I think that she should have stuck to what she did on Disney Channel. I'm glad that she has done her own thing. I think it's fine, you do you, whatever you want to do. But I don't judge. I just don't really like her. I don't like her music. I don't like her image. I think she's sending a bad message to people. I just don't like Miley Cyrus in general. Her performance was really great here. It seemed like something right out of a cabaret. The song she did, it was weird though, because I was thinking, okay, she's gonna, they had her on, I'm like, alright, she's gonna perform her hit songs, and no, she's singing like jazzy songs, and surprisingly, it works really, really well, because Miley Cyrus sounds really good on jazz. I never thought she would, but she sounded really good here. But then they brought in Maya Rudolph, and I thought those two worked really well together. The little song that they did, I definitely really did enjoy. It was a lot of fun, and that's something I really did enjoy, is their performance that they did together worked out surprisingly really, really well. At first, I'm like, oh, is this really gonna work? But Maya Rudolph, she can sing really well too, and Miley Cyrus says, damn, she has some really good pipes, I'm gonna say. I mean, when she's not auto-tuned, and when she's not, just singing about what she usually does, she sounds really good. Honestly, I'd like to see Miley Cyrus possibly do a Broadway show or something like that. She really was incredible here. I thought she did a great job, and for me, this was one of the highlights, and it really does show how broken this show is, because it just, for me, I think, for me, I don't think this should be one of the highlights, but it is one of the highlights. It definitely is one of the things I enjoyed the most, and definitely one of the most entertaining parts of this entire episode. But then we quickly get back into a skit, which luckily this one is actually funny with the next skit, which is by far probably my favorite of the bunch. As you guys can already tell, I really don't find this show that funny. I think a lot of the skits here I don't think were that funny. This was, though. I thought this was probably really funny. Basically, this one is what I hope is going to be an ongoing segment in this series, which I believe is called Letters from the War or something like that. Letters from Home. I don't really know what it's called. But basically, the idea is that Maya Rudolph's husband, he's gone off to the Civil War, basically. She's writing letters to him, and this just worked perfectly. First of all, the best thing about this is the comedic timing between these two. They work so well together, and also just how casual she was about these letters is so funny because the letter starts off as just her, saying what's going on, how is everything doing, but you can really tell right away that Maya Rudolph's character doesn't really know how to say things correctly because first she goes into this letter and she talks about this whole situation she had at home, and then she attached a picture of herself and Abraham Lincoln, and obviously her husband's a bit upset because he realizes what he's missing, and I thought whoever played the husband, I can't think of his name right now, but he was hilarious, probably the funniest guy in this show. He was so funny. Everything he said I thought worked so well here. And then the last one was what killed me, is when he found out that she did in fact have a baby when she was pregnant and she had the baby, and just his reaction to, "You had the baby?" I was dying laughing on the floor. This is funny. That's funny. I mean, the idea that she's writing these letters and all this stuff has happened and he's reacting to them, that's really funny. There's a lot of things you can do with that because, yeah, I mean, people, when you're a soldier and you're away from home, you miss a lot of things, but this skit knew how to make it funny. It didn't come across as awkward, it didn't come across as broken, and it was also really short, and I think that's the reason why it works so well. A lot of these skits, they just go on for too long, and this one was... After a completely normal and really funny skit, we go back into really weird territory with what might be the weirdest one yet. This might be weirder than the Diamonds one. It's not the worst one of the bunch because the Diamonds ones didn't work at all. There was funny stuff about this, but this plot, again, it's just really weird. I really did not like this. I really thought this was kind of dumb, honestly. Now, this idea I think is cool. I think it's kind of a fun idea. You have Martin Short. He's playing a granny, basically, trying to, I guess, read Goodnight Moon to his granddaughter, to her granddaughter and everything. And all of a sudden, we see Maya Rudolph is playing a Playboy bunny. She comes in, thinks this is the house where she's supposed to meet the guy she's going to be hooking up with, or smashing, as she says, but really just this didn't work at all. I don't understand what the joke was. There wasn't really anything funny here. Who I think worked really well here was actually Miley Cyrus. For me, she stole the entire skit from Maya Rudolph and Martin Short. I thought they both were really funny. I thought they both did a really, I thought she did a really great job here, and most of her jokes I think really landed. The idea that her granny's kind of senile and the fact that they do this every night, I thought that was really funny. I thought she did a really good job with that. The problem was, it just felt like a broken skit. It felt like this was unfinished. Like, it felt like this wasn't ready in time for the live show, and they were like, "Oh, it's live, we gotta go here," and for me, that just didn't really work at all. I thought it was a very bizarre skit, and again, a very bizarre for the first episode. This episode is defined by bizarre, like I said, and again, weird way to close things out. I wish more were like that last skit, but unfortunately, this is most of what we get, and I'm hoping that a lot of this absurd stuff goes away after this episode. So then we end with, once again, what was a highlight and shouldn't have been a highlight, with the cast of Shufflin' Along, the Broadway show that got nominated for a Tony that hasn't had a soundtrack that's come out yet because it's brand new. They performed, and I thought their performance was really good. But that's how we ended the night, and yeah, so overall, you can tell there are a lot of problems with this show. I think the main thing here, a lot of people said, oh, was the live, it got to them. It's a bullshit excuse. I don't really think that's what happened here. I think the idea is that they wanted to do something drastically different from Saturday Night Live, and it just didn't really work. You can tell throughout this entire show, they're trying so hard to not be like Saturday Night Live, and they're failing at this point. I mean, they're very much like Saturday Night Live, except they're the bad skits on Saturday Night Live. All the bad things you see, that's what they are. The only one that worked for me was the war one because it was not weird. Weird is not funny. There is a good way to do absurdist humor. Clearly, they do not know how to do that. And I don't know what happened here, but Martin Short, for me, really was not funny in any of these. I don't know if it was the pressure that got to him or something, but he really was the one that was just not funny at all. I was really surprised because it's Martin Short. He's really usually a funny guy, but he really, for me, did not deliver at all on this, and I really was not a fan of him. in this first episode at least. But I am willing to give it the benefit of the doubt that it is the first episode, and maybe it was just the pressure, maybe they just had too much planned, I'm not really sure. I'm hoping as this goes on that it becomes a lot less focused on guest stars, because it's clear that was a big part of it. They had 4 guest stars. They need to find a way to get them all in these skits. Some of them worked, some of them didn't, which, yeah, each one did have a skit with them. You know, Jimmy Fallon had one, which really, I don't know why he had one. It really was kind of unnecessary. I forgot to talk about the Steve Martin cameo. I thought that was kind of funny that they had Steve Martin drop by. But when these two are just working together, they work really well. When they're unscripted, it seems like they work really well. But when they're scripted, they're just not as funny as they should be. I mean, the war one was so good because it was just really natural stuff and it was all natural reactions. I mean, that whole thing could have been improvised for all we know. I'm hoping it was improvised because it was so well done. It felt improvised. And if it's not, I'm very impressed if it wasn't, because it very much felt improvised, and I would have made improvised, definitely. These weird ones, though, like the diamonds and the goodnight moon, for the first episode especially, that's not how you start. I mean, if you're trying to gang an audience here, you have to do something that the audience enjoys, and this clearly is not something that I enjoyed. I thought they have definitely some potential here, but a lot of these skits are just defined by not feeling finished. A lot of them feel like they just, they came up with them, they didn't finish them, and they're not done yet, and they need to still, finish them. But unfortunately, it was the first episode, they didn't have time to do that. But overall, guys, these are my thoughts on Maya and Marty. Overall, I am going to continue to watch this show. I'm going to see how it is. I'm probably going to do a review at the end of the season. I don't see the show lasting. I'm going to say that right now. I do not think the show is going to last. It already has bad ratings. I mean, I heard last night's episode was a very, very low start, so I do not see the show lasting very long. I think it's going to last as long as Best Time Ever did, which I'm not surprised, because I saw the show to be I think the show, they're trying not to make it like Best Time Ever because they want to do more of a variety show. But I don't know. I don't think this genre really works as well anymore. I think there was a time in the 70s when this worked, and now it doesn't work as well. But let me know what you guys saw this first episode. What did you find funny? I only found one skit really all that funny. I think a lot of the jokes here really did not land very well at all. I think the first one, like I said, some of these went on for too long, and some of them just didn't really work at all. What did you think of Maya Rudolph? What did you think of Martin Short? Do you think they work well together? Love to hear your thoughts on that. And we'll see you guys in my next video, which I think will be for I don't know what it's going to be for. Probably the Americans, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.